everybody, this is Ryan from Elite Wing. I'm here, sitting here with Rob and Jim from Prodos Games. How's it going, guys?
It's all good. It's great.
Excellent. Okay, so Prodos Games has just come out with Warzone about how long ago?
Kickstarter was 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
We hit retail hard. It's been about a year. First year in the
next month it will have been a full 12 months that we will have been hitting retailers across the world.
And you just finished another Kickstarter for Alien vs. Predator, is that correct?
Yeah.
Or
just over a year ago.
Just over a year ago, the Kickstarter funded.
Okay.
Yeah, funded.
Awesome.
We're on the cusp of fulfilling that.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Kickstarters are notoriously difficult to finish, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I want to ask both of you, how did Prodos start? Did one of you decide, like, hey, I want to resurrect Warzone, or was it something else?
I think this is one for me. So basically, a group of my friends in a small town in central England decided they wanted to start a miniatures company, and they were talking about what games they were going to make and what they wanted to make, and they were talking about everything from Mass Effect to StarCraft to Alien vs. Predator to Warzone. And Warzone is what they eventually came up with, simply because it was the game they played when they were kids. And these guys are Polish guys, because Warzone was absolutely massive in Poland and Central Europe. One of them was living in Poland, and one of them was living in the town that I was living in at the time. And they were actually, the guy who I knew from my town, he was actually one of my customers whilst I was working at Games Workshop in that town. And then in the end, he hired me because of my knowledge of the industry in the UK. Because I've been a professional within this industry since the age of 15.
Wow.
I'm 24 now, so it's 9 years in the industry at quite a young age. It's a lot of experience, you know.
Literally, it's been part of your childhood and
Absolutely.
part of your career path.
Totally. I mean, I started putting together models when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty intense.
You're going to be me eventually.
Yeah, I'm going to turn into Jim.
No, literally.
Yeah.
That's
when I started building models.
That's not a bad thing, is it?
No. My dad was a gamer, so I had literally been gaming since I was 6.
Wow.
If I
building models, painting.
If I grow up to be anything like Jim, I am going to be very, very happy.
Excellent. So,
thank you, Rob. That is very nice of you to say.
So, Jim, how did you get involved in Prodos Games?
I was a huge fan of Warzone back in the 90s.
Okay.
Giant fan. Found out they were doing a Kickstarter. I was over the moon. And so I got to talking with them during the Kickstarter.
Yep.
They hadn't finalized missions yet. Well, I'd written some missions with a buddy of mine for a 40K skirmish variant that we just had released online. And it was a really, unique system. And so I showed them to the guys at Prodos, and they liked my idea and asked me if I'd like to write something similar for Warzone. And I kind of started off just helping out with the rules and things like that. And a year after the Kickstarter, they asked me if I'd like to help with help in the U.S. Because I know the market.
Yeah, totally. And I should point out that the missions that Jim wrote for Warzone are a major part of what makes it a novel game and completely different from anything else. It's a tiered mission selection thing it's unusual to any miniatures game. Most games are quite what's the way to explain it? They're kind of
cut and dry. You basically have a standard mission and then maybe a secondary. They're pretty pat along the way. Ours vary up every game you play.
Okay, so if he joined after the Kickstarter or during the Kickstarter and gave you the ideas for the missions and stuff, prior to that, what if the missions are what makes Warzone so different? What were you banking on to get Warzone through its Kickstarter without those missions?
So we had some very simple missions that were basically one level. These are the 6 missions you can play, and you roll a dice to see which mission you play.
Okay, so just like that other big...
Like standard games.
That's fairly standard within minis. So
and then there was also the fact it's a D20 system.
You need Warzone mechanics that we brought forward from the old game. Because we didn't throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Right.
No. We looked at Warzone, what Warzone the company did. Sorry, I'm going to say we. I'm part of Prodos now.
You're part of the company.
Yeah.
So
Prodos looked at what worked and what didn't work, and so we just made the best version of Warzone we could and added our own flair to it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is.
Okay.
It has the Prodos flair. It's got the unique card mechanics.
Yep.
You know, how many games can you say you can physically affect the tabletop
with a card?
With a card, you can physically cause the table to have an earthquake, and everybody takes a movement penalty.
Yeah, right now I think there's only one other game that I can think of that you can physically move part of the table.
Yeah.
And that's the only one I can think of right now.
You can cause the table to be eclipsed with night, so now you can't see. So I mean, it's just really it's kind of an innovative mechanic. It adds a fog of war that you don't have in most war games.
Okay, so it's obvious that Warzone is full. The Warzone that you've created is full of references back to the original Warzone. It's really holding on to the spirit of that. So obviously you had a ready, set customer base in the old players. But what were you banking on to get new players in? What was new about Warzone and different about Warzone to get the people that didn't have any history with it, like myself?
Yeah.
I have absolutely no history with Warzone.
And that's cool. I think the great thing we've done is we've got some miniatures that we believe are some of the finest on the market at the moment in a material that's fantastic as well to use as a modeler. And then the rules are completely novel. I mean, obviously the sci-fi games that are popular right now are kind of like your Infinity and your 40k.
Yep.
And speaking in the UK, that's pretty much it. I mean, Dark Age hasn't really affected the UK market in a great way. It's a very exciting game, but it's not there in a big way, whereas Infinity and 40k are. And yet Warzone kind of fits a gap in between the both of them, So people who still want to play a game that uses a fair number of models, but they don't want to have a ridiculously large collection they've had to pay a fortune for, only to find that they don't enjoy it. The investment is a lot smaller. So it's second nature for me to talk in pound sterling, but
that's fine. We can all do the general math.
Yeah. An army in pound sterling is going to cost you around £100, which is like $160, and that's to get playing the game on a big level, with options that you can switch and change out as you wish, So that's what we were banking on, and that's what we've actually seen happen. And a lot of people have taken it up because Warzone wasn't huge in the UK in the 90s, and we're getting a lot of new customers in the UK. I mean, you're never more than an hour away from a store that sells Warzone brick and mortar in the UK now.
That's awesome.
That's just the way it is, but that's that market. But yeah, Jim can probably tell you more about US and how it's affecting the US, and obviously I think most of our customer base is actually old fans as well.
Yeah, a lot of old fans out there. It's a slow grow here. The US is huge.
Yes,
big market. A lot of different shops, a lot of different budgets. So I mean, it's taking time, but we're getting a foothold. We're getting a good foothold.
We really are, and it's a recognisable one. I mean, we look at the numbers, we look at the statistics of it, and it's growing very. At first at a moderate rate, and now it's getting more and more rapid.
Yeah, each month more and more shops are coming on and picking up the mantle and getting out there playing. I mean, we're now seeing leagues in shops.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got one of the shops I deal with constantly. They are running a second Warzone league instead of running a 40k league.
Really?
To back it up. Yeah, because the guys are just so excited about Warzone. They've all decided they want to build another army.
Wow.
So everybody's going to build a second army and do another Warzone slow grow league.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, the guys playing Warzone are really excited about it.
That's fantastic. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the models. If you look at the models now compared to the models previous, the theme is obvious. You've maintained that theme throughout the whole thing. Tell me about the process that you went through as a company in reimagining the old themes for the modern era, because now it seems like everybody wants things to be in proper scale.
Yeah.
Like no gorilla hands or gorilla gorilla arms,
Yeah.
things like that. It really seems like you've pulled out some really specific themes with your models. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's it's weird. Kind of, there's no specific formula to what we do. It's all about taste. So everything we do is kind of scaled in a way that looks more realistic. It's closer to realistic in terms of scaling.
Okay.
Heads are still a little bit bigger, and hands are still a tiny bit bigger, but not to the extent that some of the manufacturers might go. And that's simply because once you shrink a model down, when you give them a true scale head, it looks really weird in miniature.
Yeah.
It looks totally weird. And originally that's what we were doing. In terms of actually extracting stuff from the old version and either editing it or keeping it in the new version, it boils down to personal taste. Like the trenches for Imperial, we think they're totally they're like an archetype of Warzone, so we didn't change them. We just re-rendered them and made them more realistic.
Okay.
And shrunk the guns down a little bit so that they look like someone might actually be able to handle them. Whereas Capital Light Infantry, the old models used to wear baseball caps and football, like American football, shoulder pads and armour. And we edited it slightly and made it more militaristic. So they're more like future just army men grunts, you know, with round helmets and square shoulder pads that are a bit more shrunk down than they used to be. Because shoulder pads always used to be a massive part of Warzone. They still are, but they're not quite as big as they used to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, a lot of my friends refer to it as the less is more with shoulder pads.
Yeah.
They still all have the shoulder pads, but they're smaller. They're less. They're less prominent. And you know that's the whole big thing with it. You keep the style, but you make it in a point that feels real on the tabletop. You know, you look at it and go, I could see somebody wearing those shoulder pads.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we let ourselves be influenced by film, video games, comic books, and modern media and culture that help us analyse what people like aesthetically in modern times. I mean, when you look at when that game was being made, the aesthetics of those models were appropriate, based on other things on the market, and that's what we're aiming to do too.
So what were some defining sources of media that you took a look at, just to give people an idea?
So, so for example, Yarrick is a big fan of StarCraft. He loves a lot of the designs in there. Mihal, who's one of the owners, he's obsessed with certain video games and things like that. As me, I studied fine art whilst I was at university, and I specialised in not only mold making, but I was really interested in kind of post-utopian, futuristic sci-fi films. So like Judge Dredd, Brave New World. Well, not Brave New World, that's a book, but what am I thinking of? Blade Runner, things like that. And we tried to use imagery from those sorts of films and video games in our models as well.
So how did you guys come up with the actual material that the models are made out of? I mean, a lot of people are still going with metal because it's a little bit, it's less expensive.
It's faster.
It is faster. And some people are going plastics, using companies like War Games Factory and the like. What made you guys decide to do what you did?
So we use a resin that we formulated alongside a company in the UK who helped us source it, and we wanted something that's not too rigid, something that's got a bit of flexibility to it, and something that's very easy to use and easy to assemble. So with our resin, you don't have to clean it, as in physically wash it, like some of the resins on the market. It's very easy to clean up, so you can use a knife, you can use a file, you can use clippers, any hobby accessories or tools you feel comfortable using, you can use them. And they just assemble with super glue. But the reason we chose resin over plastic was the initial cost of investing in hard plastics is huge. It's like it's tens of thousands of pounds. Metal, it weighs a lot, it's expensive, and it's a kind of archaic method of doing things. Whereas we wanted to do something newer. It's lightweight, so it's much better as in resin is lightweight, so it's better for a world market. It takes a little longer to cast, but we just need to increase our manufacturing to do that, and we've managed that. But it's our own blend of resin as well. So it's nice to have something that kind of defines us materialistically as a company.